Good morning and welcome to my latest Flosstube. I am Caroline and this is Caroline's Corner. This is my little corner of the internet. I've had a blog called Caroline's Corner since the early 2000s, so I use that as my channel name as well. I'm in Leeds in West Yorkshire and this is a Flosstube about my crafty life. Occasionally I veer into books, but not today because this is a bit of I have a very short window to get a video done and uploaded before I go on holiday in a week. So here we are. So if you're new here, it's lovely to see you and I hope you'll stick around. Please like and subscribe, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for coming back and hanging out with me. Been a busy few weeks, which is why it's taken me this long to record. The kids have finished their exams. We finished exams in college. I am now into end of year academic year wrap up, which is one of my busiest periods of the year. So, and we're in the middle of a heat wave. And the combination of really hot weather and menopause brain fog is not playing nice. And as I have no notes today, there may be a bit of umming and erring and seeing how we get on. Yeah, so it's Tour de France. I have my cycling podcast Tour de France mug. I am following the tour as best I can now that most of it's all gone behind a very expensive paywall here in the UK from this year. So there's a lot of listening to the cycling podcast and stuff to make sense of what they show us in the highlights program. So I'm going to crack on straight into what I have been working on. I have a fully finished object to show you. This is Little Spot Sampler by The Drawn Thread. I stitched this back in 2022. In a weekend, it was my Dove Farm weekend with my friends. We last 20 years been going away for a weekend together. Not all of us, not all the time. Children and things have gotten in the way. And 2022, I decided I was going to aim to start and finish something, and I did, and it was this one. It's stitched in all the call through threads, which I think are mostly DMC. I think they're all DMC. The charms came with the chart, which I'd had in my stash for an awfully long time. It's stitched on some 36 count. I can't remember who it's by. I'd have to, I'm afraid. I think it was called Cream and something was the chart. Yeah, sorry, brain fog again. No notes. So I've just finished. It's a little pillow. We're having some work done on the house, and I've got a new surface cabinet put in our hallway, and there's going to be a dough ball full of little sampler pillows going on there. I have told everyone that it's not to be used as a dumping ground. So yeah, so this is one of the first little pillows I finished to go in there. So I backed it with some Blackbird design fabric from a charm pack of the Threads That Bind that came out a few years ago. I've not done anything with, and the charm was just the right size. And then put some rickrack and beads. I'm very pleased with how it's come up. So that is, I think, number 10 or number 11 in my finishing challenge, so I need to get a move on with my finishing challenge. If you're new here, I am 60 in 2028, September 2028. So I have a goal of finishing 60 of my outstanding FF finished objects into fully finished objects before I turn 60. So I've slacked off a bit because I've been doing other stuff, so I need to crack on with my finishing challenge, but back on with it there. So that's the only thing I've got fully finished, but I do have a couple of finished objects. When I last spoke to you, I was about to start the small that Simone from Soed Idee had put out for her summer sale. The Pieterje sampler, I think is how you say it. So this is a small, using some of the motifs on the sampler. I will be doing the sal. I just haven't started yet. It's in my rotation, but it's unlikely to get started until I get back off holiday. But I did enjoy doing the small. So I stitched this on some neutral 40 count Zweigart that I had in my stash and used the Call4 DMCs. I was just experimenting whether I liked the DMCs or whether I was going to splash out on the overdyes, but I think I'm going to stitch a sampler in the DMCs, but I may tea or coffee dye it afterwards. I might experiment with this one. This is also going to be finished as a pillow, and this is going to go in that dough ball of little sampler smalls that I mentioned earlier. Really pleased. I really enjoyed stitching that. It was fun, stitched up really quickly. So that is the small from the Soed Idee. Soed Idee. Simone did tell me how to pronounce it once, but that was a few years ago. So my next finish, and I've forgotten to bring the chart and things over, however, but given it's a finish, and you've seen it a lot if you've been following me for a while, is the Birds and Bees Sewing Roll and Accessories by Stacy Nash. I started this a few years ago, I think 2023. So when it came up as the Sal in the Across the Pond Facebook group this year, I decided I would jump in to get it finished, and I have, and I stuck to the Sal deadlines, which is quite surprising for me because normally I am way off. Really enjoyed finishing this one. So in June, it was just finishing the Biscornu, these pieces. Yeah. So now it's on the pile it's going to take a rest on the to be finished pile for a bit, and then I will get it finished into a sewing roll. But I'm really pleased to get this finished. I bought this when it was an exclusive for the Homespun Needlework group on Facebook, so and didn't really start it until it was on general release. So I bought it as a kit with the Call4 Weeks Dye Works fabric. So this is Weeks Dye Works beige and the Call4 Weeks threads. And I really enjoyed stitching on this one, and I'm really pleased to have two finishes to show you. So having gone through my finishes, it's time to head on to my whips and what I worked on this month. So once I finished the little pillow by Soed Idee, I picked up An Open Heart by The Drawn Thread, which I bought when it came out in the early 2000s, but only started in 2021. I think I started this one. It's a beautiful design. I love Drawn Threads designs. I have been a fan of hers since I first started stitching. It's being stitched using needle pointing silk. So I like to keep my silks in floss away bags, so that doesn't show particularly well. And this is my project progress so far. So on my rotation on this time round, I finished this band here and I put in this band. Now this band has some drawn thread work, so that was kind of fiddly getting that out, and then I brought the inside borders down a bit. So yeah, I'm quite pleased to be past that drawn thread those drawn thread bands with the withdrawing and the reweaving of threads, because that can be a bit, like I say, it's just time consuming and you have to pay attention and count and all those other fun things to make sure you're withdrawing the right threads. And then she says, don't do the border until you've finished this band. Well, I'd started, but I'd got to the stage where I needed to finish the band before I could take the border any further down. Loving working on this one. It's so nice to see have it come out this year and to get some solid progress on it. I think I am about heading for the 2/3 done on this now, or I will be when I get a bit more of the border in. So, like I say, I'm using needle pointing silks. I think the fabric, the called for fabric, is 34 count cafe au lait. I can't remember if this is the cafe au lait or it's elegant bean, which the kit came from Elegant Stitch in Modesto, which was Lady Dot's shop, and she started dyeing her own linen. So I can't remember which one it is, but I do know it came from there. So that is An Open Heart. Then I changed up my rotation slightly. I've been trying to think of how to, because I've got so many large samplers on the go, how best to work on them sort of regularly. And I stopped doing whip go sort of about March time, but I really wanted, but I was thinking I'd do sampler whip go for next year, and then thought, well, why don't I start it this year and just jump in? So I did myself a whip go board, filled in for the numbers that hadn't been called yet. And what I'm going to do is I normally do a 10-hour rotation on my main whips, but for whip go I'm just going to spend 5 hours working on so I work on 2 samplers during the rotation in the month, and they get 5 hours each, and that just keeps them moving forward, so they're not all tiny little starts when they come up on my main rotation. I mean, most of them are still going to look not going to have that much done, but at least they'll see a bit of progress, and it's all about progress. Just keep moving them forward. So the first sample that was called for June was Anne Grant, 1829, from Shakespeare's Peddler. I started this one back in 2022 when I started all the things. Or to be more precise, started all the very large samplers. So it is really nice to get back to this one. I'm stitching it in silk, using mostly the called for, apart from 2 of them. Now the called for is Thread Gatherer, but at the time I was kitting this up in 2020, 2021, I couldn't get my hands on the Thread Gatherer, so I went to my stash with the DMC conversion that Teresa provides in the chart, and pulled a couple of water lilies that I thought were a good match. I have a very large collection of water lilies. I do not have a large collection of thread gatherers because they're a lot harder to get hold of here in the UK. So it's a mix. It's water lilies, it's needlepoint silks, there's some Gloriana, there's some Vera Soie, and there are some Belle Soie, which makes it really nice to work on. And here's my progress. When I last, so this time it got 5 hours, and what I did was to take the, I think I had one flower in the border, one, maybe two flowers in the border. So what I did was put in the next 3 flowers in the border, and there's some small flowers on the inner border, and then I did another couple of violet letters. So not masses of progress, but moving forward, which is my goal, because I can now see the end of that top border, which will be nice. I'm stitching this on 40 count latte linen that I bought from the Northumbria sampler house. So quite a while ago. I don't know if she dyes this colour anymore, but she does do lovely hand-dyed linen. Heartily recommend. Because like I say, I kitted this up about 2021, 2020, 2021, started it in 2022. So it's been on the go for 4 years, and this is how far I've got. But I'm really looking forward to seeing some regular progress every year on these samplers. After I had worked on Anne Grant, I then moved on to my current focus piece, which is September Morning by Jackie du Plessis. It's finally finished. I took this class back in 2016 when Jackie was over in the UK to teach. And it's a lovely little sewing box, and it's got various accessories and smalls inside, which aren't shown on the front of the cover. So I finished all the stitching on the box, and I'm working on the accessories now. So I'm working on a little needle book. So I'd started outlining it when you last saw it. So this is all over one. So it's not the speediest stitch. So I've done the floral. I've done the little spray at the top, and I'm working on the sort of the almost bargello bands underneath, and about halfway through those. So they'll get finished next time this comes out. I still think there's at least another couple of rotation rounds on this to finish off. I've got another 3 pieces to finish, 2 of which don't have a huge amount of stitching on, 1 of which does. So yeah, probably 2, maybe 3 at the most, but should get this finished this year, which will be nice. Well, I say finished. Finish the stitching. No problem. The finishing's unlikely to happen anytime soon. I'm not sure on the linen. These are the silks. Again, I'm not sure what brand they are. Jackie doesn't tell us. The overdyed is, I think, Gloriana. But they are beautiful to stitch with. I then moved on to my second sampler whip go call for June, which was Hannah Wilson by Needlework Press. Again, this is another one I bought as a kit when it was an exclusive through the Homespun Needlework group on Facebook, but it is, I believe it's now readily available and it's an aqua sampler. It's an aqua alphabet sampler. And here's where I'm up to. So put 5 hours in this. So this time I finished this over one alphabet here, put this dividing band in, and started the next alphabet. So again, pleased with my progress. It's just a case of chipping away at some of these big samplers until they can get higher up the rotation. But I started this one in 2023, I believe. Yeah, 2023. So it's, again, because it came from the Homespun Needlework group, it came as a kit. So the linen is 40 count Eureka by Fox and Rabbit. And I'm stitching using Dinky Dye's Mud Flats silk. So quite enjoyed a little bit of time with Hannah, and I'll look forward to when she comes back up next year. Right, after Hannah, the whip I worked on was, my rotation whip was Christmas Garden by Blackbird Designs. Another chart I've had an awfully long time because I've got the chart version, which I bought when it came out. Again, this was a 2022 start. Yeah, bought it in this came out in 2011, and I will have bought it around then. Yeah, started this one when starting all the things in 2022. I'm using the call for overdyed cottons, a mix of classic Colourworks and Gentle Art. And I'm stitching it on the same neutral Zweigart linen that I did the Pieterje small on. I got a full meter of this from the Viking Loom in a sale, like 2021. So it's a lovely one to use for samplers, nice neutral colour. So working on this time, my 10 hours was mostly spent on this big floral vase in the middle. If you watched my last video, you will know I had to start with some frogging because I had mistook that top berry for that bottom berry and gone up, and so it wouldn't have fit without me frogging back quite a bit. So, but I'm very pleased to now have that central motif all done and to be past the halfway point on the top. I still have to chart the initials to go in there, and I'm going to put in there, I'll use the maternal line back from my daughter. So yeah, I don't know when this one will come out again, but it's nice to get a bit of solid progress. So yeah, Blackbird Christmas Garden by Blackbird Design. I do enjoy working on it. Yeah. My stitching has slowed down quite a bit over the last few weeks because of the heat wave. The UK is not designed for temperatures over 30 degrees. And it has been utterly horrific. My office does not have air conditioning. I work in a 1960s concrete building, which just absorbs the heat. And then last year they re-roofed it, put loads of new insulation in because we all complained it was cold. It is cold in winter. New double glazing, and of course now it doesn't let any heat out, so the offices are just horrible. I think it was about 31 degrees the other week with 60% humidity in my office. Yeah, it's just, you just can't function. I certainly can't function. Have to say, I'm quite looking forward to heading down under for some winter. I am very much a winter person, I think, although I moan about the rain and stuff as well. So having finished, so it took a while to get through 10 hours on Christmas Garden because there were days I just didn't feel like stitching, and was just trying to do a row of knitting or something just to keep rolling over. So then we got on to the July sampler whip go, and my first July call was Breath of Spring by Just Nan. This is another 2022 start, but it's being a Just Nan, I've gone a little further on. I do enjoy Just Nan charts. This 5 hours just took me just over the halfway mark. I've not worked on it for a couple of years, so this time round there is a white work band there. I finished that one, put in the rice stitch and some herringbone underneath, and like I say, it took me past the halfway point. This is a very, very old design of Just Nan's. There's the seasonal samplers. They're one of the things that I first fell in love with when I started stitching 30 odd years ago. I still love them and I really want to get them stitched and on my wall. So this is, I think, 32 count Winter Moon fabric from Zweigart. It's being stitched mostly in DMC. There is one water lilies, which Just Nan was very, very keen on using silks with her samplers. There's there's number 8 and number 12 Perle cotton as well to add a little bit of texture. There's beads to go on, but I will put the beads on at the end as I'm stitching this on a Q-snap. I finished up my rotation round on this one this morning. So yeah, so this is Just Nan's Spring. And like I say, really nice to see some good progress on that one. And now we're into my plans. As I mentioned in my last video, I pulled a small design out from my stash to stitch. So I'm going to start the Porte Epingles in the Maison de Brodeuse line by Ophélie Reves. I don't think she's around anymore. Sylvie, she used to be very active on Yahoo bulletin boards back when I was. I've kitted this up using various different silks from my stash, mostly really old Vicky Claytons. And so that is what I'm going to work on from tonight. Then my remaining whip go call for July is Florence Mary Dickenson from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. And this is where I will be picking Florence Mary up. What I hope to get done in my time on this whip go round is just to finish this big vase of flowers off. There's a lot of changing colour in some of these bits of Florence's design, so As I mentioned in my last video, we're going away. We're going on a trip to see family in New Zealand and then stopping off in Australia on the way back. So I don't expect, the way I'm thinking that this next week's going to go, that I will get to Florence before I go. So I think Florence will come with me as a whip to work on, along with, as I mentioned, the Simple Gifts Wall, which is what I decided I would take on holiday as my whip, my kit. I try and, if I'm doing a long trip like this, I try and take a kit and I try and get it finished. Whether I will or not, I don't know, but I'll take that, because if I take that and I take Florence, I will not run out of things to stitch. She says I will be going to stitching shops in Australia and New Zealand. Thank you to Stitch Addict for reminding me what the name of the big shop in Auckland was called, Ribbon Roses. I'm planning a trip there. I'm also planning a trip to the Cruel Goblin. So I'm not going to be sure. There's a shop in Greytown, which is very close to where my sister is in the Rapper Valley. I'm not going to be short of things to stitch. Yeah. So simple things, which again, I bought when it was a kit, an exclusive kit design for the Homespun Needlework Facebook group, and I've been sat on the shelf since then because I know, because Jeanette has released this one at market, and because I got it through the Homespun Needlework. It came kitted, so I'll be stitching on Dolly Madison and with the call for. It's a lot of Weeks dye works and it's all over the icons. So look forward to getting stuck into that while I'm away. And like I say, in the off chance I finish that one, then no way I'm going to get, I've got plenty to go with on Florence. So that's what I'll be working on when I'm on holiday. Right. So I haven't bought much stash since since last time, because I know I'm saving my pennies to spend when I'm on holiday, obviously. But one of the things I did in June, as I mentioned, was I've been taking part in a stitching weekend with some friends for the last 20 years, and we've always been going to the same place in Derbyshire. So as it was our anniversary year, we all decided to exchange gifts. I made some thread keeps for people, reusing some needlework that my late mother-in-law had made, because she was another prolific stitcher, and there's only so much I can keep. And if I don't want stuff, I don't want my daughter to have to deal with it. So I repurposed it. I'll put a picture in here. But I wasn't the only one to make stuff for our gifts. It was probably split about half and half between us. So Lindsay the Cheshire Stitcher made us all project bags, and that was the one I chose, these. Sally made us little baskets. Nikki made us journals. Ali made us little bags. Paula got us needle minders with a picture of Dove Farm on it. Rachel got us a pair of scissors engraved with Dove Farm 2026 on the blades. Kate got us little bracelet kits from Spellbound Beads with some beads. Mine obviously were all purple, and a selection of little charms. So there's something dropped on the floor there. I'm thinking this little fish one I might see if it fits on the Swan Lake, the Just Nan design I finished last time, instead of the swan charm. Lynn gave us all individualized scissor fobs and a little tin with some quilt clips in. Rachel gave us all the quartz heart. And I think the last things were from Joy. So they were beautiful gifts. Everyone has obviously thought a lot about it. So it was quite fun to unpack on the Saturday night. And now it's on to knitting, because there has been a fair bit of knitting, because I'm trying to finish my rock pooling shawl by Kira's Handmade to take with me to New Zealand on account of it being winter out there, and I think a nice cozy double knit shawl will go down a treat. The weather here, however, is not cooperating, but I'm almost there. I'm down to the final border. I finished the colour work. So when you last saw it, I was up here. I was just about to introduce the purple colour. If I can do this without it falling off the needles. So there you go. So I've got another couple of rows of stocking stitch to do, then I'm onto a garter stitch border, and then it'll be cast off and then it'll be finished. I'm fairly sure I will not have time to block this before I go, but I don't think that'll matter. I can wait and block it when I get home. But that's almost done. It's beautiful yarn to work with. It's a double knit merino from Irish Artisan Yarns. Unfortunately, it's not a base they dye anymore. They don't look like, it doesn't look like they do any hand dyed merino. So I have 3 different colours, and I honestly can't remember what colour is which at the moment. But like I say, I think they seem to have stopped doing hand dyed. This particular base hand dyed. They'd got some, when I looked on their website, they'd got some mill dyed double knit, but they didn't have the hand dyed double knit. I got this pre-COVID at Yarndale, so which means it was probably 1919, maybe late, maybe earlier than that. The other knitting I've been doing is I've been carrying on with my sock. When I last showed you it, I was down here on the rib. I'd just cast off my second stock. I have now finished the leg, and I am working on my heel flap, thanks to a couple of lots of training sessions. I don't have the yarn band with me, but this yarn is from the Knitting Swede, and it's one of her rainbow ones. So this is the first side sock, and then I'm on with sock number 2. That'll almost certainly get finished either on the way to New Zealand or when I'm there. It's a plain vanilla sock pattern, of which there are. I've taken it off a ball band from one of my first ever skeins of sock yarn. There are plenty out there on the internet. So the only other thing I have to cover is some fabric I bought. My friend Lisa, who runs the Modern Quilt Club, has moved into a new space for her business, right next door to Joe of A Beautiful Thing, the fabric company, and they had an open day. So I took the advantage and went shopping. Now, Lisa had these lovely tote bags. When you bought something, in my defense, I was left unsupervised in a fabric shop. Yeah, kind of appropriate. So from Lisa, I bought some more of the juicy fabric that have been used in the my Sparkle and Shine quilt, with a view to using it to do some dressmaking at some point. So I got the last of this one and a couple of meters of this print. This one I'm hoping might become a skirt. We'll see. As will maybe this one. I don't know. I need to look out some patterns and have a think about what I'm going to do with them both. And then from Joe, I picked up some fat quarters with a view to these 3 fat quarters I'm going to use to finish the Birds and Berries sewing roll, because they coordinate really well with the colours. I'm hoping these colours, it all shows up okay. I decided it was light enough today not to need my ring light. Maybe a mistake, but we'll see. Just like I say, so I didn't have to faff around with that today. So yeah. So, and then another, because you can never have too much finishing fabric. So that is everything I have got for you. I will, like I say, I'm going to be away for a chunk of the next few weeks. So I will come back towards the end of August. I'll fill you in on my holiday and what we got up to. So thank you for hanging around with me today. Please do leave a comment. Let me know what you've got to the end, what you've watched. Please do like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. I'm slowly getting towards 500 subscribers. It would be really nice if we could get up to 500. I'm not one for the numbers. If I was here for the numbers, I'd have given up a long time ago. But it's nice to see the number count increasing. I think I've had a couple of shout outs recently by people, and I can't remember because menopause brain, and I have no notes. So if you have shouted me out, thank you very much. I think one of them might have been Lindsay. Treasure Stitcher. I haven't watched a lot of Flosstube. I don't get a lot of time to watch Flosstube. The ones I have watched are Jessie Marie Does Stuff, Tanya Solly Stitches. I watched recently. I think that's about it. Fibre and Floss Canada. I think that's about it. Like I say, Tour de France is on. I'm if I'm not watching cycling, I'm listening to cycling. So I don't get a lot of time for anything else, and life is nuts busy, and will be until I go away next week. So thank you very much for hanging out with me, and hopefully over the summer I will get to catch up with everyone's Flosstubes, and I hope I will see you again soon. Enjoy the nice weather if you're in the northern hemisphere, and I hope winter's not too bad for you if you're in the south. I'll see you again at the end of August. Bye.